Now, it is Friday. It's Economic Roundup Day. I have on the line with me Ken Schortgen. Ken is the National Finance Examiner for Examiner.com. He has the website, thedailyeconomist.com, and he joins us once a week to talk all things economic. Ken, you saved the best for last. This is the last segment of the show, and all we've talked about really is Cyprus. So I know that there's a bunch you're waiting to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. But I want to end the Cyprus, even though there's still tons out there, by this. The IMF head, Christine Lagarde, one must remember, she was given accolades by Obama to get the position after Strauss-Kahn was caught in that rape incident in New York and got kicked out of the IMF, and Lagarde got put in there. Christine Lagarde used to work in the Chicago machine at a law office, knew Bill Ayers, the Weather Underground, and knew Obama. So tells you something interesting when you have the head of the IMF deciding to do this, and she has direct ties to Barack Obama before he became president. The fact that he promoted her for the IMF position, and now she decides to take on Putin in almost like a Cold War type scenario and got checkmated. But it doesn't end there. Shortly after Lagarde decided to impose this haircut on Cyprus, suddenly there was a 20-year-old case regarding fraud and corruption when she was with a law firm that the French authorities actually raided her apartment looking for evidence. So she herself now is on not very stable ground as the head of the IMF.
I can imagine.
So that's another repercussion come out there. Well, one of the interesting things that's going on is, of course, the rise in Bitcoin. We've talked about and we've heard in the promos how Bitcoin has gone up to $68. In just the last 6 months, has gone from like $10 or $10 per coin to $68 per coin. But the question always comes, why would people want Bitcoin? What is it backed by? It's not backed by gold, it's not backed by silver, it's not backed by anything. Well, no fiat currency is. The confidence of the government or the confidence of a nation is really just something to impose on people, that we're here, we're strong, our currency works, even though they're devaluing it to death. Well, Bitcoin is actually starting to become a massively favorite alternative in Europe, especially as the euro starts to falter. Spain, this last weekend, the three biggest app downloads on smartphones and on tablets in Spain were all three Bitcoin apps. We have a man in Canada who just about a half hour ago or 2 hours ago, he's listing a bungalow with 2.9 acres of land. He's selling it for an asking price of 405,000 Canadian dollars or 5,521 Bitcoins, and he is quoted as saying he would rather have the Bitcoins.
I can't really blame him.
No, and here is where things are starting to get really interesting. Yesterday, the U.S. government came out with acknowledgement that they are going to start regulating Bitcoin and apply money laundering rules to virtual transactions, i.e., if more than 10,000 U.S. dollars worth of Bitcoins are done in a transaction, you must fill out a form. If you're in Europe, they want it to be in Europe, but if you're Europe or U.S., for the Treasury officials or the IRS officials to make sure you're not avoiding taxes. Now, this is where, of course, you have that shaky ground because Bitcoin is not backed by any country. It is a foreign currency. The U.S. has no right to tax or regulate it. However, it appears that there is a fear that the trust in fiat currencies around the world, not just the euro, but maybe the dollar and et cetera, is starting to gain ground. And you can see that by the fact that the value of Bitcoin has gone up more than 21% in 3 days.
Now, do you see? I've heard people start talking about Bitcoin recently because the value has gone up so much, and the people have basically been stating that you shouldn't trust Bitcoin because it's a fiat currency. But what I will say is the market is using it, so the market is demanding it.
Yeah, but if you want to be honest, what is a currency? A currency is anything people believe has value, whether intrinsic or material. You know, back in ancient times, there were islands that were using seashells as currency.
That's true.
Anything can be used as a medium of trade. Gold and silver then came about it because it was something that nearly every nation had, and it was a respected and recognized medium of trade. But even that, as you saw in the Roman Empire, could be used different alloys. They could gold plate it, they could clip it, make it smaller, and eventually trust in gold and silver in the Roman Empire was a large part of what brought them down. So it's the same thing with the dollar, the euro, any other fiat currency. Once the confidence in that and the purchasing power of that currency starts to wane, then people aren't going to use it. They're not going to rely on it. They're going to find other means to do it, because if a gallon of gas was worth a silver dime in 1965 or 64, the value of the silver dime today is the same price as a gallon of gas. Okay, yeah. That stayed together. But instead of paying 10 cents in 1964, you're paying $3.85 today. Why would I want $1 when I could have something else worth value? And that's what they're seeing in Bitcoin, and they know that its business model of not inflating by printing them up in a massive amount and allowing the market to determine the price allows the people a lot more control over their money than they would trusting in the Fed to use monetary policy to keep a strong dollar.
You know, I think it's something where we're going to sit back and watch and see what happens. Especially, you know, the case of Bitcoin, I think, has been absolutely fascinating. It's been really fascinating to watch because it's amazing how many governments all of a sudden seem to really dislike Bitcoin, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's always ironic that for a long time, the powers that be have been wanting to get rid of paper currency and do an entire electronic system. Well, it appears that a third party beat them to the punch, is backed by no nation, is like a sort of rogue nation out there, and could have a global currency that people eventually will grow and respect. And the central bankers will have no power over it except militarily, or using cyber warfare. That'd be their only thing, because it's not tied to any country.
Exactly.
A non-sovereign sovereign currency.
Yeah, you know what? That's exactly what it is. And I find myself wishing that I had invested more in Bitcoins. You know, I've had friends of mine that have invested thousands in Bitcoins when Bitcoins was, I don't know, like $6 for a Bitcoin. And they've already made so much. I've seen them talking about when do they think would be the best sell time. And they're like, you know what? I think I'm good. You know, I might sell 10% when it reaches $100, but I'm happy to have my Bitcoin. And I'm not, obviously, I'm not running out and telling people to invest. So just that disclaimer. All right. The Angel Clark Show will return Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Ken, thank you so much. His website is thedailyeconomist.com. Have a good weekend. And remember, rock on.